You want to know the most powerful woman in the room? It's not the one who needs a crowd. It's not the one seeking validation. It's the woman who walks alone. The woman who doesn't wait for permission, who doesn't look around to see if anyone is coming with her. She moves forward because she trusts herself. She knows where she's going, and even if she doesn't, she knows she will figure it out. Walking alone isn't a weakness. It's a strength. It's proof that you are capable of standing on your own 2 feet, making decisions without needing approval, and taking ownership of your life. The truth is, society conditions women to believe they should always be surrounded by others. We're taught that success looks like being accepted, being chosen, being liked. But the reality is, the most powerful moments in your life won't happen when you're in a crowd. They will happen when you're alone, making choices that scare you, stepping into the unknown with nothing but your own determination. The woman who walks alone isn't afraid of solitude because she understands that solitude is where real growth happens. When you are alone, there's no outside noise, no opinions shaping your decisions, no distractions keeping you from hearing your own thoughts. And in that silence, you find clarity. You discover who you really are, what you really want, and what you're truly capable of. That's the kind of power no one can take away from you. Let's talk about resilience. Life is going to throw challenges your way. There will be days when things fall apart, when you feel lost, when the people you thought would always be there suddenly aren't. And in those moments, the woman who knows how to stand on her own doesn't crumble. She adjusts. She finds another way. She doesn't wait for someone to rescue her. She becomes her own savior. That's the difference. A woman who walks alone has been through enough to know that she doesn't need someone else to complete her. She completes herself, friend. And here's the truth. The more you learn to rely on yourself, the more confident you become. Confidence doesn't come from what people say about you. It doesn't come from having a full social calendar or being surrounded by a support system 24/7. Confidence comes from proving to yourself that you can handle whatever life throws your way. It comes from stepping outside your comfort zone, making tough choices, and realizing that you don't need permission to go after what you want. Walking alone also forces you to raise your standards. When you stop fearing solitude, you stop settling for less. You no longer tolerate relationships that drain you. You no longer accept opportunities that don't align with your values. You no longer beg for a seat at tables that don't respect your voice. Instead, you build your own table. You create your own path. And you only allow people in your life who add to your energy, not take away from it. And you know what happens when you stand firm in your power? The people who respect strength, who admire independence, who see the fire in your eyes and the determination in your step, they will come. You don't have to chase them. You don't have to prove anything to them. Because the woman who walks alone doesn't beg for company. She attracts it. So if you've ever felt afraid to walk alone, if you've ever questioned whether you're strong enough, let me tell you this. You are. You always have been. You just need to recognize it. You don't need a permission slip to live your life on your terms. You don't need a cheerleading squad to validate your choices. You don't need to wait for someone to walk with you. Because the woman who walks alone, she isn't just walking. She's leading. She's setting the example for every other woman who's afraid to take the first step. She's proving that strength isn't about who stands beside you. It's about who you become when you stand alone. So stop waiting. Stop hesitating. Stop looking around for someone to hold your hand. Your power isn't in who walks with you. Your power is in your willingness to move forward, no matter what. You don't just have the ability to walk alone. You have the ability to thrive while doing it. And that is what makes you unstoppable. Life will test you. It will throw you into situations where you have no choice but to figure things out on your own. It will challenge you with heartbreak, loss, disappointment, and rejection. And in those moments, you will realize something powerful. Resilience isn't something you are born with. It's something you build. And the only way to build it is by standing back up over and over again, no matter how many times life knocks you down. Resilience is built in solitude. It's built in the moments when you have no one to lean on. no clear path forward, no one reassuring you that everything will be okay. It's in those moments when you realize that you are your own safety net. No one is coming to save you. No one is going to hand you the life you want. And that realization is not something to fear. It's something to embrace. Because once you understand that you are in control of your own life, you become unstoppable. The woman who walks alone doesn't break when life gets hard. She bends, she adapts, and she finds a way through. She has learned that every setback is temporary, every failure is a lesson, and every challenge is an opportunity to become stronger. She knows that pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. She refuses to let her past define her, and she refuses to let circumstances dictate her future. There will be times when you feel like giving up, when you feel like the weight of everything is too much to carry. And in those moments, you have a choice. You can let the struggle defeat you, or you can use it to fuel your growth. You can let your circumstances make you bitter, or you can let them make you better. And the woman who chooses to get back up, even when she's tired, even when she's scared, even when she doesn't know what's next, that's the woman who builds unshakable resilience. People often think that strength is about never struggling, never feeling lost, never experiencing fear. But real strength isn't about avoiding hardship. It's about facing it, feeling every emotion and pushing forward anyway. It's about knowing that you don't need all the answers right now. You just need to take the next step, and then the next one, and then the next one. When you walk alone, you learn things about yourself that you would never discover otherwise. You learn that you are more capable than you ever imagined. You learn that your limits are not as fixed as you once thought. You learn that no matter how many times you've been hurt, disappointed, or let down, you can still choose to believe in yourself. You can still choose to keep going. The world will tell you that you need validation, that you need approval, that you need someone to hold your hand through every step of the journey. But the truth is, you don't. Everything you need is already within you. You just have to trust yourself enough to listen to that inner voice telling you to keep going. And here's the thing, resilience is not built in comfort. It's not built in easy times. It's built in the moments when everything feels like it's falling apart. When you are standing at the middle of uncertainty and fear and doubt, and you decide to move forward anyway, that's when you become unbreakable. That's when you become the kind of woman who doesn't just survive, she thrives. The woman who walks alone doesn't see obstacles as stop signs. She sees them as detours, as lessons, as opportunities to grow. She doesn't let rejection make her feel unworthy. She doesn't let failure define her. She understands that every challenge is shaping her into the person she is meant to become. You are stronger than you think. You are more resilient than you realize. And the only way to prove that to yourself is to keep going, to keep showing up, to keep walking, even when the path is unclear, even when the world tells you to quit, even when the people around you don't understand your journey. Because in the end, resilience isn't about how many times you fall. It's about how many times you rise. And the woman who walks alone, she always rises there, is something incredibly powerful about a woman who is comfortable being alone. When the world gets quiet and the distractions fade away, she is left with the most important voice, the one inside her own mind. This is where self-discovery happens. Not when she is surrounded by opinions, expectations, or the noise of society, but when she is standing in the stillness of her own thoughts, unfiltered and raw. Most people are afraid of being alone because they've never truly met themselves. They fill their time with obligations, conversations, and relationships that keep them distracted from the one thing that matters most, who they really are. But a woman who embraces solitude knows that alone time isn't empty. It's full of potential, full of self-awareness, full of the clarity that only comes when the outside world stops influencing her decisions. She starts to ask herself real questions. What do I actually want? What makes me feel alive? What kind of life do I want to build? When you remove the noise, the expectations, and the pressure to conform, you start to hear your own voice. You start to recognize what feels true for you, not what you were told should be true. You realize that many of the beliefs you once held weren't even yours to begin with. They were inherited, absorbed from the world around you. And when you take the time to strip those layers away, you find something incredible: your authentic self. There is nothing more freeing than learning who you really are and finally stepping into that person unapologetically. The woman who walks alone isn't waiting for permission to be herself. She isn't seeking approval before she pursues her dreams. She isn't shaping her choices around what will make other people comfortable. She knows that she is responsible for her own happiness, and she refuses to betray herself just to fit in. When a woman fully embraces who she is, something shifts. She stops questioning whether she is enough, whether she is doing the right thing, whether she is worthy. She just knows. She knows her value isn't tied to external validation. She knows her path is hers to define. She knows that by listening to her own intuition, she will always find her way. The world teaches women to doubt themselves, to second-guess their instincts, to play small so they don't make others uncomfortable. But the woman who walks alone doesn't play by those rules. She has learned to trust herself. She has learned that her inner voice is wiser than the noise of the world. She has learned that every time she listens to herself, she grows stronger. When you know yourself deeply, you stop feeling lost. You stop looking for answers outside of yourself. You stop needing others to tell you what to do. You stand firmly in your own choices, confident in the direction you are heading. And here's the beautiful part: she won't be easily swayed by opinions. She won't settle for less than she deserves. She won't allow fear to dictate her choices. She walks with certainty, not because she has all the answers, but because she trusts that she will figure things out. She doesn't need to know the whole road ahead. She just needs to take the next step. And as she does, she inspires others to do the same. She gives permission to the women watching her to trust themselves, to honor their truth, to step into their own power. Because when one woman stands boldly in her authenticity, it creates a ripple effect. It encourages others to do the same. Self-discovery isn't a destination. It's a lifelong journey. But the moment a woman starts walking that path, she changes. She becomes someone who no longer fears being alone, because she knows that solitude is where she finds herself. And when you truly know yourself, you become unshakable. The woman who walks alone isn't lonely. She is free. Free from expectations, free from the need for validation, free to be exactly who she was meant to be. And in that freedom, she finds her greatest strength. Confidence isn't something you are given. It's something you build. It's something you build. And the fastest way to build it? Rely on yourself. A woman who walks alone learns this firsthand. She doesn't wait for someone to validate her choices. She doesn't look around to see if others approve. She simply takes action, knowing that every step she takes makes her stronger. That kind of self-sufficiency creates unshakable confidence, the kind that can't be taken away. Most people believe confidence comes from external sources, compliments, achievements, social approval. But that's not real confidence. Material confidence. That's conditional confidence, the kind that disappears the moment outside validation is gone. Real confidence is built from the inside out. It comes from proving to yourself over and over again that you can handle whatever comes your way. The woman who walks alone knows this because she has had no choice but to trust herself. She has learned through experience that she is capable, resourceful, and strong. When you rely on yourself, something shifts. You stop hesitating. You stop questioning whether you are enough. You stop waiting for the perfect moment to start. You move with certainty because you've already proven to yourself that you can figure things out. You don't need someone to hold your hand through life. You don't need permission to go after what you want. You don't need reassurance that you're on the right path. You trust yourself. And that trust is what creates confidence. The woman who walks alone knows that she is her own greatest asset. She doesn't need a crowd to feel secure. She doesn't need approval to feel worthy. She has built a life where her confidence comes from her own experiences, her own resilience, her own ability to make things happen. And because of that, she moves through the world differently. She speaks with conviction. She makes decisions without fear. She isn't afraid to be seen, to take up space, to stand firm in who she is. This kind of confidence is rare because most people are afraid to stand alone. They cling to the safety of validation, of belonging, of doing what is expected. But the woman who walks alone isn't looking for safety. She's looking for growth. She knows that stepping outside her comfort zone is the only way to truly become who she is meant to be. And here's what happens when you start trusting yourself. The doubts begin to fade. The fear that once held you back starts to lose its grip. You stop asking, can I do this? And start telling yourself, I will figure this out. That is the difference between those who wait and those who take action. The woman who walks alone doesn't wait. She moves, she learns, she adapts, and in doing so, she becomes unstoppable. She also understands that confidence isn't about knowing everything. It's about knowing that no matter what happens, she will handle it. She doesn't need to see the entire path ahead. She just needs to take the next step. That's the secret. Confidence is built through action. The more you do, the more you realize what you are capable of. The more you push yourself, the more resilient you become. And over time, that resilience turns into confidence that cannot be shaken. When a woman reaches this level of confidence, everything changes. She no longer tolerates things that drain her energy. She no longer seeks approval from people who don't understand her.
Yeah.
She no longer shrinks herself to make others comfortable. She stands tall, knowing that she is enough exactly as she is. And because she believes in herself, she naturally inspires others to do the same. The world often tries to make women doubt themselves. It tells them they need to be softer, quieter, more accommodating. But the woman who walks alone doesn't play by those rules. She has created her own. She knows that her confidence doesn't come from being accepted by others. It comes from accepting herself. She knows that every time she chooses herself, she strengthens her belief in her own abilities. Every time she takes a step forward, even when she's scared, she proves to herself that she is capable. Every time she refuses to settle, she reinforces her worth. And that is how confidence is built. So if you ever find yourself wondering if you are strong enough to walk alone, remember this: you already are. You just have to trust yourself enough to take that first step. And once you do, you will realize that the only approval you ever needed was your own. When a woman walks alone, something remarkable happens. She starts to raise her standards. She stops settling for anything that doesn't align with her values, her growth, or her happiness. She no longer clings to relationships that drain her energy, environments that make her feel small, or opportunities that don't excite her. She becomes incredibly selective about where she invests her time, her energy, and her heart. And that shift? That's where her true power lies. Most people fear being alone because they equate solitude with loneliness. But a woman who has learned to walk alone understands that solitude is a gift. It gives her the space to evaluate what truly serves her and what doesn't. She is no longer surrounded by noise, distractions, or obligations that keep her from seeing clearly. And in that clarity, she realizes she deserves more, not just in her relationships, but in every aspect of her life. She stops saying yes out of obligation. She stops tolerating half-hearted love, friendships that lack depth, and careers that leave her uninspired. She recognizes that her time is valuable, her energy is precious, and her peace is non-negotiable. She no longer feels guilty for letting go of things that no longer serve her. Instead, she embraces the idea that growth requires letting go. And here's the powerful truth. When you stop settling, you make room for better things to enter your life. When you stop clinging to the familiar, even when it no longer fulfills you, you create space for opportunities, people, and experiences that actually align with who you are becoming. But you can't do that if you are afraid to walk alone. A woman who walks alone doesn't fear the unknown. She understands that stepping away from what no longer fits isn't losing. It's leveling up. She trusts that by letting go of the wrong things, she will attract the right ones. And that belief allows her to move through life with certainty, knowing that she would rather wait for what is right than settle for what is convenient. This shift in mindset transforms her. She no longer chases love. She attracts it. She no longer begs for opportunities. She creates them. She no longer seeks validation. She embodies self-worth. And the more she refuses to settle, the more powerful she becomes. She starts to demand more from her relationships, her career, and most importantly, from herself. She no longer plays small. She no longer silences her voice. She no longer accepts mediocrity in any form. And do you know what happens when a woman raises her standards? The world rises to meet them. The people who are meant to be in her life show up differently, more present, more intentional, more aligned with her values. The opportunities that come her way are no longer just good enough. They are exactly what she deserves. And most importantly, she starts to trust herself in a way she never has before. Because settling isn't just about relationships or careers. It's about how you see yourself. When a woman stops settling, she starts treating herself with the respect she deserves. She prioritizes her well-being. She protects her peace. She sets boundaries without guilt. She takes care of her body, her mind, and her soul because she understands that she is worth the effort. And here's the thing, raising your standards isn't about being difficult or demanding. It's about knowing your worth. It's about refusing to shrink yourself to fit into places that no longer align with who you are becoming. It's about believing that you are worthy of a life that excites you, a career that fulfills you, and relationships that uplift you. The woman who walks alone understands that walking away from the wrong things isn't weakness, it's strength. It takes courage to say, "This is not enough for me." It takes confidence to stand in your truth and refuse to compromise on your values. And it takes deep self-respect to choose yourself over comfort, over familiarity, over fear. So if you ever feel like you are standing alone because you refuse to settle, know this, you are not losing. You are winning. You are making room for the life you actually deserve. Test it. You are stepping into the version of yourself that isn't afraid to demand more. And that is where your power lies when a woman walks alone. She learns the true meaning of inner peace. She no longer feels the need to constantly explain herself, defend her choices, or prove her worth to others. She understands that peace doesn't come from external validation. It comes from within. And because of that, she protects her peace at all costs. She doesn't allow unnecessary drama, toxic relationships, or negativity to take up space in her life. She understands that anything that disrupts her inner peace isn't worth holding on to. Most people live their lives reacting to the world around them. They absorb other people's stress, take on unnecessary burdens, and allow situations outside of their control to dictate their emotions. But the woman who walks alone has learned a different way. She doesn't react, she responds. She doesn't get caught up in things that don't serve her. She chooses where her energy goes, and she chooses wisely. She has learned that not every argument is worth having. Not every opinion needs a response. Not every person deserves access to her. She has built a life where peace is her priority, and because of that, she moves differently. She doesn't chase after things that are meant to leave. She doesn't force relationships that aren't working. She doesn't waste time trying to fix people who don't want to change. She simply lets go, trusting that what is truly meant for her will never require her to lose herself in the process. There is a quiet power in a woman who is at peace with herself. She doesn't seek approval because she is already approved of herself. She doesn't entertain unnecessary drama because she values her energy too much. She doesn't allow fear to dictate her choices because she knows that everything she needs is already within her. She moves with confidence, not because life is perfect, but because she trusts herself to handle whatever comes her way. Protecting your peace is an act of self-respect. It means setting boundaries without guilt. It means saying no without explanation. It means walking away from anything that doesn't align with your growth, even when it's difficult. The woman who walks alone understands this deeply. She knows that her peace is priceless, and she refuses to let anything disturb it. She doesn't have to prove anything to anyone. She doesn't have to exhaust herself trying to be perfect. She understands that her power comes from within. It tells women that strength means being tough, emotionless, unbreakable. But the woman who walks alone knows better. She knows that strength is found in vulnerability, in resilience, in the ability to rise after every setback. She knows that allowing herself to feel, to process, to grow is what makes her truly powerful. She has faced moments where she questioned everything, her path, her choices, her worth. But she didn't stay stuck in that doubt. She picked herself up, she reminded herself of who she is, and she moved forward. That is strength. Strength is not never falling. It is getting up every single time. A woman who has walked alone, who has built herself from the ground up, who has learned to trust her own strength, is a woman who cannot be broken. She has already faced her worst days and survived. She has already learned to be her own greatest source of support. She has already proven to herself that she can handle whatever comes her way. And because of that, she no longer fears the unknown. She no longer hesitates when making bold decisions. She no longer seeks permission to live life on her terms. Her strength makes others uncomfortable, not because she is intimidating, but because she is undeniable. She doesn't fit into a box. She doesn't follow the script that society has written for her. She refuses to be limited by other people's expectations. She has learned that her strength is her freedom, and she will never give that up. This kind of strength isn't loud. It isn't boastful. It doesn't need to be announced. It simply exists. It is seen in the way she carries herself, in the way she speaks with certainty, in the way she holds her boundaries without apology. It is in the way she chooses herself, in the way she believes in herself, in the way she refuses to accept anything less than what she deserves. And the most powerful thing? She didn't get this strength from an easy life. She built it. She earned it. She created it through every hardship, every challenge, every moment when she could have given up but didn't. She turned her struggles into lessons, her pain into wisdom, her obstacles into stepping stones. So if you ever doubt your own strength, remember this: you have already been through so much, and yet here you are, still standing, still growing, still moving forward. That is strength. That is power. That is proof that you are capable of handling whatever comes next. The woman who walks alone is not weak. She is not lost. She is not lacking. She is powerful beyond measure. She is a force that cannot be contained. And once she realizes the depth of her own strength, there is nothing in this world that can hold her back.